There we go. T-minus boom. Hello, hello, hello. Putting in my buds. How's the stream? How's the audio? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. We are live. How is the audio? Someone say yes, it's good. Excellent. All right. Like we do about every week, we do some live stream questions and answers. And this week is no different. Just got done entertaining my partner's father, and his wife was up here. You probably saw us if you watched the fishing show on Lake Vallecito. We killed it. The trout fishing there is like, I could have caught 100, but I was only allowed to keep 5. So I stopped there. And they're off to do the rest of the Southwest, and like Bandelier and other sites. And we are back to our normal schedule here, albeit backed up a week. So a quick synopsis of maybe some of the most interesting geophysical events that have happened over the last week. We've had a 7.0 in Acapulco, which a lot of people are making videos about. There was some extreme lightning associated with it. Now, we all know that telluric currents in the earth is what's triggering major quakes. And to have a relationship with the ionosphere down through the atmosphere into the surface of the earth through an electrical circuit is becoming more obvious than ever to many scientists. So not a unique event, but unique in the fact that we were able to get some of that footage and witness the electrical storm at the same time of the earthquake. Other than that, a 6.5 magnitude glitch from a USGS app that popped up on many people's phones led to a bunch more nonsense because people, let me just put it this way. People are lazy as heck. And no one has time to spend 1 minute to go check another seismograph station to see if there was actually an earthquake. Because when there's a major earthquake like a 6.5 in British Columbia, that would have been felt everywhere on the planet, and you would easily, in a snap, be able to corroborate that information. But no one has an extra minute or 30 seconds to go do that. But they have hours and hours to repost shit that they've never researched. That's the problem with society today. Everyone is lazy and typically inept. Not the people watching this show, by the way. Most people coming here are trying to, their heads have already popped out of their buttocks, and they're trying to gain more information because they didn't get anything practical, any practical knowledge in public school or even college. Oh my God, I can't even explain to you how useless 95% of all my classes were in college. I took advanced thermodynamics, fluid dynamics, crystallography, mineralogy. I have never, ever, Infinity, used a single thing ever that I had to study hard and get an A for. Absolutely just mindless places, these universities. Now, thankfully, people who do graduate work get to do their own independent study and actually get to do research and do science, but far few people are doing that. Whew. A little tongue twisted. Also, big announcement. At least Alan and I will be headed out to the 15th International Climate Conference in Las Vegas, October 15th weekend, as media to cover the event and interview the likes of Willie Soon and who else is going to be out there? We got Happer and the guy who started Greenpeace. So we're going to get some good interviews, and stay tuned. There's like 20 scientists speaking at the conference. It is in Vegas, and someone from a friend of the show just contacted me in a comment from last night's video and said he lives in Vegas and he has access to some amazing petroglyphs. So if you're listening to this, email us at oppenheimerranch@gmail.com so we can hook up with you and go see those petroglyphs while we're out. Limited window in Vegas. We're going to be there like for 48 hours and then we're gone. So those are the updates. Now let's take some questions. I haven't even, does Richard Allen Miller, AKA Doc Graham, have anything to do with Oppenheimer Ranch project? No, he's just good friends of the channel. I have his phone number. I can call him anytime I want, but we've never met in person. Although we've planned to go on river trips and all kind of other stuff, it's just never happened. We're both very busy. People that have purpose-driven lives don't have much extra time. And it's just how it works. If you're living abundantly, there is limitless things to do. So it's really hard to hook up with all the people I want to hook up with and do all the cool things I want to do because there's just so much to do. I know a lot of you feel that way. 97 in the house watching, 42, 44 thumbs up, 101 watching. Thank you guys all for coming this morning. 420 Freedom is Films is in the house. Let's just go over and see what's going on here in the chat real quick. Willie Fix It, JC Warlock, Gabriel F, Brittany Has Eyes, Jason Paul, 420 Freedom is Films in the house. Mr. B Silver, yo. Ransom, you're not a moderator? Can I do that here? Yeah. All right. Let's get some moderators in here, including our favorites, Sue and Sam. Hey, Misfits. Matthew Sager Diamond had to go take a boom. Yes. I had to eat half a banana. I haven't eaten this morning. I've been watering, working, and just doing it crazy. Living on coffee. Thank God it's Sumatra. We know how that works. All right. Audio's good. Top notch. Little Levin. Nicholas Fiorucci, C. Flickdu, Heva Puff 420 is in the house, as well as Sherry Lynn and many others. No, Susie Q, Halo, Vic's Work, Bookworm Addict, Elon Butterfield, Miss Jess Horse, barely started 420. Well, glad to see rocking the live. Well, here we are. I can't even believe this is working, and you can even hear me or see me. Our internet has been terrible. We're on satellite, and it has only been getting worse. Okay, I'm looking for some questions. I'm scrolling down. What's my favorite recipe for those beautiful trout? Well, any recipe. When you get a bigger trout, it's different than small trout. So when we catch small native trout, you just gut them and pan fry them in a little maybe masa, which is corn flour. And then you can eat the whole bones and everything because the bones become soft if you fry them long enough, little trout. But the big trout, I like to broil or bake. And this one I baked for about 30 minutes at 15 minutes at 425, then open it up and broiled it for 5 more minutes. When a fish is that thick, like 4 or 5 inches, you got to have a thermometer to stick it in there so you can tell if it's cooked. And in about 30 minutes, the biggest trout that I caught was ready. And 4 of us enjoyed it momentously. It was fantastic. The meat was a little pink like salmon, as these amazing mountain trout. The flesh is just divine. It's sweet, and I can't even, well, that's about that. So, and then what I did was I cut a lemon up, shoved it inside the cavity of the trout, put some dill inside there and some dill on top, and then just smothered it with butter and did the baking like I explained. So those are and salt and pepper. Pretty simple. Okay, so let's moving on. Bookworm Addict. Why can't scientists wrap their minds around that when icebergs calve off into Antarctica, that gravity is causing the calving along with underwater volcanoes? ? I don't know your what the question is. But most people don't know the natural cycle of a glacier. They grow out, they get too far out into the ocean, and then they calve off. It's the calving cycle. And that allows the glacier to push forward again after it calves. So it's just a natural part of glaciology. It has nothing to do with climate, long-term climate, short-term climate. It has to do with regional climate in that area. Some areas, glacier growth is faster or shorter. Now, a paper I shared last night that came out about Greenland, a study in Greenland, their findings were exactly opposite of what all the global warmists have been saying. What the global warmists have been saying, and all the headlines are, Greenland's melting. It's melting into the sea. Sea level's going to rise. Greenland's melting. But the study found that when the climate gets warmer in Greenland, the glaciers get bigger. So based on historical information, the exact opposite happens when it warms. And that is the conundrum of science. It is a clusterfuck, and everything goes. So hot is cold and cold is hot. Global warming causes extreme cold, and on and on. The nonsense is mind-blowing. And it also makes your head hurt sometimes. So hope that helped, Bookworm. Mark the Vicar, I checked calligraphs to check soon after. Put that to bed. I guess he's talking about the quake. The quake was supposedly in BC, not California, by the way. Yes, 420 only uses history in life. Excellent. Looking for some questions. Dr. Richard Allen Miller answered that one. Patrick Moore. Yeah, Patrick Moore will be there. We'll get an interview with him, hopefully. Just got back from Aldi. That's our local grocery store. It's also, anyway, it's connected to the supply chain. These are supply chain warehouses that are remarketing and rebranding stuff that's already in the chain, which is why you get it cheaper and almost no one works there. There's like one cashier. So that'll be how everything is in the future, by the way. So let's see what happened at Aldi. Michael Pierce just got back from Aldi. Supplies were available, but no red grapes, but plenty of green grapes and limited black grapes, which I purchased. Wow, what a food shortage. I'll tell you what, we have a choice of 3 colored grapes. You know, in the infamous words of Ice Age Farmer a year and a half ago, when he put out his groundbreaking piece called No More Meat, which claimed that in a year there would be no more meat, which was complete bullshit. Hundreds of thousands of new subscribers flocked to him because of the need for fear. People are satiated. They salivate to be told that the world is going to end. There's not going to be anything in the supermarket, when 99% of the time it's bullshit. So do your due diligence, because we have shortages in our supermarket is magnificent. I've never seen such a fantastic market. The produce section is a quarter-mile long, for instance. But there are some times when certain things are missing. But the selection is so broad that it doesn't matter, period. Now, what a lot of you should be doing, and what we've been trying to teach for years, is to build local community. Now, that means getting to know all your neighbors and what they're doing, creating packs, creating side groups to maybe raise food, chicken, eggs, pigs, and then barter. And then you have a system. Guy right down the road here used to sell goat milk to like 20 people in the valley. Then he stopped selling goat milk because it was too much work. So that ended. But we had that for a year. And these types of local community systems grow. They don't get smaller if you keep working towards them. And what you can have in the end is a hedge that you don't need to go to the grocery store. If the power goes out and there's no more shopping, what comes next is looting, and very quickly there's nothing left. And so if you're not in the loot, you better already have what you need, or a system set up where you can start to ramp up food storage, food production, and animal production rapidly when the event occurs. Oh my God, I don't even know where that came from. All about Aldi and grapes. All right, we have 165 people in the house, 87 thumbs up. Thank you all for supporting the channel. And my cats are running in here. You get a little look there. There's the cats. There's Rex's old cat. Hades just left, and that's Basketball Bob. All right, now you're getting familiar with the crew here. Okay, let's get to some more questions. Diamond Gitsy. Fear is what motivates people. It shouldn't. Fear is a liar. So the motivation is false, and whatever it's motivating you to do is incorrect. In my opinion, the elimination of the concept of fear could be beneficial to humanity. Now, you should always have some modicum of fear. That's why, as a professional rock climber, I never fell very far. I never got extremely injured because I had fear of falling. So I made sure that all my gear placements were top notch and they had backups. Plus, I just didn't fall. I didn't let go. Because if you let go, you fall. And so a small amount, a pinch of fear is what keeps you alive. Any more than that, and in climbing, something happens called getting gripped. If the fear increases too much, you start to freak out and you hold on too hard. And then guess what happens? You fall. You use all of your energy for no reason except for fear, which was a liar, when all you had to do was keep a little bit of fear and relax. And our society is not being taught how to live abundantly and happy. This is what we used to teach children in school 100 years ago. Now we teach them to fear everything. Young people these days are mentally ill because they're scared of global warming, for goodness sake. How sick of a society have we become when this is the reality? If you were to go take a poll of young people from 10 to 20, let's say, are you scared about climate change and the future of the earth? I bet 80% would be like, yeah, man, we're all going to die. Haven't you seen the news, man? And it's completely ludicrous. When people could be learning facts about climate cycles and science, instead they just are compliant puppets that hide in a hole. Shut up, Al. See? All right, let's get back to some questions. My clan has the bug and making its way through the chicken, and we're happy. Awesome. GMOs are in full stock. Real food is hard to come by. Yes, 420, we know that. And that's because, and as inflation increases, more people will move towards the GMO food and get sicker and sicker, less nutrition, and need to go to the doctor for more of those pills to pay the bills. All right, we have 184 in the house, 110 thumbs ups. Thank you, folks. Let's look for some questions. I said 20 years ago, things are going to get more crazy. It's not a question. All right, give me a question. The reason I'm here is because there is no fear porn. Well, thank you. Not much to see back here either. No green screen in this house. Have food shortages started in the United States, and should we be collecting canned food? You should always be prepared and have at least, in my opinion, 3 years of food on hand to allow you to survive and thrive in any event. Because if it is a grid down and the grid never comes back up, in 3 years, you better figure out what to do when your reserves run out. And in the meantime, you could be ramping up food production, wild harvesting, stacking some of those wild animals in the sense of making pemmican or jerky, because refrigeration will be a thing of the past, except for maybe like root cellars. You know, we may get back to ice houses if you in the spring and delivering of ice and stuff like that if the grid's down for a long period of time. But if you have it all on hand, dried and ready to go, with the ability to ramp up fresh green production and microgreens and sprouts, there should be no blip in your trip. You should be just as nutrient dense and healthy as any human on the planet. While the rest of the population withers and dies, you're going to survive and thrive. So everyone should be prepared now. You shouldn't be buying canned food now. You should already have it. Or every day buying one thing, one extra thing to add to your reserves. And then rotate it. You want to be buying stuff you actually want to eat or you're using now. You don't buy all the cheap beanie weenies because they were 20 cents. And then when the grid goes down, all you have is SpaghettiOs, and then you all die from eating GMOs. That's probably what you don't want to prep with. So use your noggin, kid. All right. And New World, let's go back to the food shortage issue. There's always food shortages somewhere. What is going on in third world countries is extreme drought, and basically their subsistence is the grain that grows there. So there's always famines, and they ebb and flow with climate cycles. I remember when I was a kid, all the children starving in Ethiopia, and the bloated stomachs and all the fear porn and everyone donating money, and it's all getting gobbled up by NGOs and other groups, and none of the people getting food. This is the way the world has been for a very long time. It's a very, very sick place. So be prepared. All right, Tiffany Harmon says the human-caused climate change deception is having such an effect on people's vote in our Canadian elections. In a good way or a bad way? Because they're probably voting in all the climate alarmists. And that's just the way it goes. Excuse me. Hey, Diamond, would you consider doing some homeschool climate cycle and science classes? I would love to. People have asked me to be the homeschool science teacher up the road here. But no. I could put together some videos like that and put them up on Oppenheimer Ranch Project in a small section called homeschooling, where I just do some basic videos. That would be something in the future. And that's something that Leah and I want to do. She has been working on some ideas, but she just hasn't had the time to make the videos. She's going to be doing some homeschooling type videos on chickens, our experience, aging of chickens, what happens when they get old, what happens when chickens have strokes, all kind of stuff that's practical to know if you're raising chickens. So that'll be something to look forward to. And I could probably put together a few homeschool videos for the kiddos on basic geology, basic climate cycles. And Willie Soon has put together some amazing videos on climate nonsense. And he's actually gone over 50 years of climate BS in his most recent video that we've linked before. And I will put it below here because I just spoke of it so that you can all go watch it, because Willie Soon is an expert at going deeper and wider and back further than anyone else is willing to go as far as historical data to get the right answer. And that's real science. And these are the type of people you want to be following and listening to, because what they're talking about is, well, it is groundbreaking, it's earth changing, and it's science, and it's not dogma, and it's not BS. So if you want to learn something, I suggest everyone follow Willie Soon. And because he is one of the most prolific scientists right now, he's publishing several papers a month, and he's just badass overall. So, hey, Diamond, would you consider doing? Yeah. All right, Moon Sprouts, answered your question. Montclair jacket. Montclair, I don't know. Do you harvest on full moons, or do you believe it's all hype? The moon cycle is best utilized for planting seeds. And there is a specific science to it, and it's the science of tidal effect. So the moon affects the oceans, and makes them go up and down through the tidal effect. It also affects biological cycles, like the menstrual cycle, which also happens in men as well. Not the menstrual part, but a moon cycle occurs in the spinal cord of the man, and as well as more biologically in the female. So these cycles we know scientifically are there. And as far as planting on moon cycles, I believe it 100% is true. You plant aerial plants or fruits and vegetables that grow above the ground, like tomatoes, peppers, corn, and stuff like that, during the waxing moon when it's getting bigger. And you plant root vegetables on the waning moon phase, like potatoes and stuff like that. Tubers that go in the ground, Jerusalem artichokes, for instance. And so I stick with that. But as far as harvesting on the full moon, who gives a? You harvest when your crop is ripe and ready to harvest. And if you're a permaculturalist or a home gardener, you're going to be harvesting every day a little bit. So we harvest 10, 15, 20 pounds of squash a day if we walk around, and we pick it when we want it. And so we're harvesting every day. When you're talking about commercial farming or monocropping, they're waiting to the end when the last one's ripe, and they just go in and they harvest it all. So there's two types of farming, and I don't think it matters when you harvest. Personally, I harvest when it's ripe. So I'm sticking with that. Joanne, 1520, did knee-jerk horse paste scare you? Did knee-jerk horse paste scare you? I have no idea what that means. Maybe you guys can help me out. 202 watching, 151 thumbs ups. Thank you, folks. We're trying to get through some questions today. We've been on live for 25 minutes. And Lucid Farm says, do you subscribe to the 10th planet Nibiru? Absolutely not. New paper just came out that said there's 100,000 planetesimals in our solar system. And that is more than enough mass for planet 9 or 10 or Nibiru or whatever you want. Nibiru doesn't exist. Nibiru in the ancient writings is a reference to the passing of a planet. And it's likely describing Jupiter in many verses, as well as Venus, not a different planet named Nibiru. The translation of the word Nibiru is passing related to time. So it was some type of a celestial clock they were using to determine a date or a time, like spring. Let's plant. That is the Nibiru. So when Jupiter moved by a certain constellation, they planted. Has nothing to do with aliens and gold or anything like that. Most of that's made up, by the way. Okay, Hidden Harvest, nice day in New Hampshire. Now, what I do believe is that there was a massive amounts of gold mining going on this planet 100,000 or more years ago, and all this evidence is in Africa, Southern Africa. Just get on Google Earth, spend an hour or so and start looking around, and your mind will be blown. What you're going to find is millions upon millions of ruins all over the continent. Very little written or said about it. And those that do talk about it, well, where are they? So there is a lot of, well, I would say 99% of all of our history is bullshit. So that means we know very little about what's actually going on, which is why I live in the moment, because I know my food's out there at the door. I know where to get it. I know where my animals are. I know where the people I love are. I have a roof here that gives me shelter. I have a fireplace here, 100 BTU stove right there that I refurbished that Lee and I got at a junkyard or whatever. And this people 100 years ago all knew about this. Keep the lard, save the fat, save your life. Because you always have something to cook in. You always have very high caloric fat. And those of you that are on keto, oh my God, you eat it with a spoon. Just be like, nah. Oh, canned food is a good source of something. I can't remember what. Okay, moving on. Beam, no-till garden. Put on now under plastic or spring when take plastic off. Is that a question? It depends on where you live, no name. If you have very mild winters, like zone 8 or higher, you could put on beam 5 times a year, every 2 months. If you live in a colder climate, like zone 5 where we are, where for 3 months the ground is frozen, putting it on now might not be as beneficial as putting it on as soon as the ground thaws to spark the magic. Because what you want is those. So if you put it in the fall, it won't matter. The fungi and the spores, that will be in there, the bacteria. The bacteria may die off. The fungi will remain in stasis and hopefully make it through the winter and bloom. But I would recommend, if you're in an area that freezes, to put the beam on as soon as the ground softens in the spring. And now you want to put your beam on in the greenhouses. If you have a 4-season greenhouse, like a rigid greenhouse, you want to put the beam on now because you might have had disease and all the crops are done and all your food sucked out, all the nutrition out of the ground. And you want to give it a little inoculation and get that bacteria and the fungi back in there, cleaning it up and getting it ready for the fall or winter crop. So you can be using beam 2, 3, 4 times a year in your greenhouses, twice a year out in your garden, in the spring to kickstart it, and then maybe midsummer to give it a boost. And that's a beam boom. That's what I recommend. Now, the beam people out in Indiana, our beam producers are making another batch of beam. The first batch was about 2,000, 4,000 pounds. I'm not really sure, in like 16 reactors. I think they're going to double it. But what I want to get to is that they're doing experiments on different crops like hemp seeds and plant seeds and filming them. So on their website, they're going to be putting up some of the most amazing results that you can just go look at and it'll blow your mind. It's almost like magic. So let's get over. I didn't want to talk about beam, but. Okay, Tara Smiles. How do you think Washington State will fare in regards to weather? Well, the weather will always change. It'll be 4 seasons. It'll snow in the winter, and it'll be hot in the summer, and it'll rain. It'll be partly cloudy, stuff like that. So that's what Washington weather is all the time, during an ice age and not during an ice age. Same weather. 4 seasons. It's what happens everywhere. So that's what will happen. Okay. 420, if there was a Nibiru, it had an unstable orbit and most likely only passed a few times. So it is probably full of Nanunnankipoops. Yep. Nanunnankipoops. A small holder's journey. Diamond, atmospheric pressure on SSL. The atmospheric pressure on sea surface level? I don't know what the question is. That's not a question, by the way. That was a statement. You'd have to add a word like what for that to become a question. What is the atmospheric pressure on SSL? Is that the question? I don't know. But just saying, Diamond, atmospheric pressure on SSL is a statement, not a question. So I can't answer it because it's not a question. Sorry. Okay. Denatured alcohol. What did you use for it? Couldn't buy it in Wisconsin. I don't know what you're talking about. Denatured alcohol is probably poison. If you want to make any extraction, you want to get organic grain alcohol. They make it locally here in Colorado, all over the place because they have breweries. And that's how you want to make tinctures or extractions, or if you're extracting the oil from plants. That's the question, not denatured alcohol. Ugh. Okay. Steel, stacker, diamond. How do you think the winter will be in Pennsylvania this year? Meaning snowfall amounts. Well, I think it will be snowy and extremely snowy. And the reason is in the Northeast, typically on the second year off of the solar minimum, it's another bumper snow year. So could be good skiing in the Northeast, like a beast. But it's looking very dry out here in the central Southwest. And if La Nina, they're now saying there's an 80% chance that La Nina will develop by the winter, then it could continue to be dry here, which is going to be prolonged drought. Now, when you have a prolonged drought, what always happens in a few years, 5 or 7 years is typically the length of a prolonged drought out here. There's deluge and everything fills back up and everyone goes silent until the next drought when we're all going to die. So be prepared for a deluge coming soon to the west. So that is what's going to happen. Trust me on the drive-through. Beam's a natural soil booster. Is that a question? Beam is a type of compost that's not compost, but it is. But what it is it's so dense and created in such a way that it contains a biological profile unlike anything that anyone has ever seen. The amount of fungi, bacteria inside are prolific. Let's just put it that way. And if you make it the right way with all the correct fungi and bacteria you need in the right ratio, then you create the perfect subsurface environment, meaning your soil, no matter what kind it is the perfect version of that soil. And that's what you need to grow banner crops. So that is the advantage of the Beam Boom. It's no chemicals. It's all natural, made from rotting stuff that we already have. So it is renewable, abundant, and free if you make it, which takes a whole bunch of work. It would take you hundreds of hours to make one load of Beam, and it's cheap enough just to buy it. A couple pounds, you mix it in water, boom, done. So that's a Beam Boom. Ice ages start, could be starting right now. It could be now, but they take about 1,000 to 1,500 years until they get to the maximum point. So in your lifetime, you're not going to see anything fancy. So who asked that? So Prime X8, you should be really preparing for the magnetic reversal that's happening now, because that may happen completely in your lifetime in just another decade or so. And when that happens, we're talking a once in a 12,000 year event, which is where evolution occurs, extinction occurs, and the shit literally hits the fan. So that will be something to be prepared for and to be looking for. Also, the grand solar minimum will deepen by 2035. Could be the coldest time on Earth since the Maunder minimum, certainly since the Dalton minimum. And so that will be interesting to see how that rolls out. We should be seeing some epic blizzards, some epic droughts wiping out entire farming regions. So the little tiny things we're seeing now pale in comparison to what we'll be seeing in a decade. So, and that's why you should all be prepared, because before all of this rolls out, there's a very high probability that the sun will take out the grid and knock us back into the Stone Age. Now, what the mainstream is doing now, because they're obviously picking up what we've been putting down for years, they're now warning about an internet outage, as if that matters. Like the internet goes out, we're all going to die. It's completely insane. Like if I can't text, oh my God, what these people don't realize is that they're going to be eating their fucking neighbors. That's how stupid they are. Whew. All right, let me shake that off. Okay, my voice, I can't go much longer. Let's go 5 minutes here. Could you use beam in hydroponics? No. This doesn't work. Hydroponics doesn't work that way. It's an artificial way to grow plants without soil using nutrients only. So they grow in a different way, in a little weaker way, because they don't have the same benefits of all the minerals in the soil, but they do produce a crop and a product. Not a very good one, by the way. Not a very healthy one. So I think people that are working with hydroponics and aquaponics are idiots, and it takes a lot of work, and they're doing it all in plastic buckets as if that's healthy, when all you need to do is grow food in soil, period. Hydroponics and aquaponics are fancy, heavy. I mean, there's so many inputs. There's so many things that can break. There's pumps. There's electric. You got to put the nutrition in, the pH. It is not the future. It is, in fact, a fantasy of the now. Now, huge corporations can grow tons of food using hydroponics and aquaponics, including cannabis, but it's less nutrient dense and less good. I mean, the food in the supermarket's disgusting. Every single tomato is disgusting. I don't know why people are paying $5 a pound for this crap. It doesn't taste like a tomato, and then you eat it, you're like, and then we buy them again. Absolutely stupid. We've been patterned to accept food tastes like shit, and then we buy it. Sad world. All right, one more question. Can we get 200 likes? There's 226, 23. People are leaving like flies. Oh my God, why don't you just ask a good question? Please help spread the word. Advocating for free speech. November 3rd, quitting my job and traveling the country. Good job, Penniless. Enjoy. You can claim tax credit of 55 cents per gallon to make alcohol as a fuel, i.e. denatured alcohol. Oh, good. Good for you. Where is that? Send me the link. Diamond, what kind of windows did you use for your Zone 11 greenhouse? Windows? If you're talking about the glazing, we use Solex, Solexx. And you just Google that. The windows, we got repurposed windows. The diamond-shaped windows were from a mansion build. They threw them out. We got them for $50 each. Those are the windows to look out. But the glazing is Solex, and it's Solex Pro. There's two types of Solex, 3.5 millimeter and 5 millimeter. The Solex Pro is the way to go, and that's the 5 millimeter. It's about $80 per sheet, like 4x8, like a plywood sheet. And it is comparable to almost any other greenhouse covering that's rigid. The only difference is I've seen this product here 10 years later, and it's still flexible and fine, whereas the polycarbonate, the twin wall or whatever that you see on the grow domes or other rigid greenhouses, out here in 5 to 7 years, it becomes yellow and brittle, and it stops letting light penetrate. So in a hailstorm, it would shatter and destroy your greenhouse because there'd be plastic everywhere. But what happens in a short period of time is you can't grow food in that greenhouse because it's getting dark and all the light is being blocked out. So be careful the glazing you choose. We chose Solex. We have no connection to that company. JC Warlock Diamond, what do you think will be the effects of the releasing of the Beaufort Gyre? Well, if the Beaufort Gyre releases, it will be a nightmare for all of Eastern Europe and most of Europe, as well as Scandinavia. It will get very cold, very quick, and we'll have to see how the weather patterns shift, but you could have driving fronts coming right off Greenland down into Europe again and again and again. But there's going to be no warm air coming from that Gulf Stream if the gyre gets released and the Gulf Stream shuts down. It's also going to change the way we fish because all the commercial fishing operations rely on those currents. So it might be a big glut in fishing. So learn how to fish in your local rivers and streams, or live near a mountain lake like I do, where you can pull out 3-pound trout 100 at a time. So it's important to know where your resources are and where you're getting them from. So the Beaufort Gyre will be, if that releases, will be epic. And I mean that because we're going to have internet and people recording and showing what's going on. And it will literally be an amazing time for science, because we'll be able to see what the release of that amount of fresh water into the Atlantic does, when the Gulf Stream shuts down, what that does, and to literally watch what happens with the weather in Europe as that area gets very cold, very quick. Okay, guys, thank you all for coming. I appreciate you to no end. You gave me the moxie to do this, even though it's so difficult with them shutting down channels and demonetizing us. We keep doing it. And I want to thank all of our new Patreons that jumped over to the Patreon. I think there was probably 15 or 20, which is pretty good, because at the end of last month, I guess people are financially strapped. About 20 people dropped off. I guess they just can't handle giving $1 a month or whatever they were given. And we don't want you to give money you don't have. So if you become a Patreon, only give what you have so you can stay on with us forever. If that's $1 a month, do it. And just give the $1 a month as long as we're on the air. And what I do is I put almost every single video I make up on Patreon. Doesn't matter what channel it's from, Oppenheimer Ranch, Shinrin Yoku, Magnetic Reversal News. If I'm putting up something a little salacious from Rumble or Odyssey, which it used to be, anyway, so all these places. The problem with all these other alternative sites is just not a lot of people there, and there's no money being generated. I need to make money for the time I spend on this channel, because I can't operate what we're doing here at the Oppenheimer Ranch project. I can't put diesel in the truck. That costs $80 3 times a week. And you need money. So right there is $1,000 a month in diesel. And that's what Patreon pays for, basically. So when they demonetize a channel, it takes off all of our ad revenue, which is how we operate here. Thank you, 420, for the super chat. I'm not begging for money. I'm just trying to tell you to give if you want, and give what you can when you want, because it helps. I want to thank Top Knot for the big thumb up. I didn't see you in here, Knot, for the super chat. Let's get that out here. And thank you all for being excellent to everyone. That's how we do it. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance in a dystopian world where cats are this fat. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh, that looks delicious. Maybe, well, there's a store of food. Now, isn't it?